here today with Beverly Chandler. She's the managing editor of ETF Express. Beverly and her team are launching the first digital ETF Live Summit this October, a chance for the industry to get together virtually in the face of a pandemic, but also cover ground on all the good things that happened within the ETF space and beyond in 2020. Beverly, your team has a great agenda for us. Tell us about the inaugural conference.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. We started in May with a digital event, which was of course supposed to be physical, and so we just leapt off the drawing board and had to turn it into a digital event, all distanced apart. I mean, working from home, it was absolutely extraordinary that we got anything going at all, but it was very popular. We covered many of the same subjects that we're covering for the US, but obviously looking at it from the European angle, which is where we're based, so it's slightly our home territory. It was really, you can see the films actually. If you go to ETF Express, the website, you'll find that the films of the May event are on the website there and you can see them. The October one is going running from 20th to the 22nd of October, and it originally was going to be physically in New York, but now will be digital. But it's very much our North America take on the whole issue of this extraordinary world of ETFs, which is so vibrant at the moment when an awful lot of things aren't.
Beverly, the retail investors have been behind the growth of ETFs for quite some time now. Large-scale retail adoption has been one thing, but now we're seeing institutional investors dive in even more concerted levels. You have to take a look at this and wonder, how can institutional investors find the best path forward in terms of their adoption and use of ETFs? Tell us what they might find out during the agenda of our conference.
So this has been a really interesting thing for me as a European, because in Europe, the ETF industry is dominated by institutions. So it's a completely swung round vision of the industry back to America. And we found, of course, as you know, it's largely retail and largely through investment advisors and wealth managers that this industry has grown. Institutions, we found through our researches and our trips over, were not quite sure even how to trade in these things. They didn't understand how they worked. We have a whole panel on trading. How do you access ETFs, and how can an institution access ETFs? Because from their perspective, it's something you might put in your own personal savings account, but you wouldn't expect to be using that for institutional business. So we've dealt with some of those issues within the program. And we also have all the wonderful themes that pop up in ETFs, which is, because they're so nimble, ETFs can offer access to themes institutions want to get exposure to really fast, cheaply, transparently, and with liquidity. And of course, they've won their battle with the world saying that ETFs would crash and burn the first time there was this hint of volatility in the market. We actually saw through early volatility earlier this year that ETFs did really, really well, which has meant that institutions are looking at them really hard now and want to include them in their portfolio.
Beverly, tell us about some of the speakers that are lined up for the event. Who are you most looking forward to hearing from?
It's been really good fun because for me, I've had to do it from here, of course, and so I'm sitting just outside Oxford, if anyone cares, and I will be when I'm chairing the event. We wanted to get the actual experience of institutional investors who are using ETFs, and so I'm very happy to have two institutions represented through Mary Gronseth, who is on the board of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Minnesota. And it's very interesting, her experience, because that's obviously an insurance company, and insurance companies are increasingly using ETFs and setting up their own subsidiaries to offer ETFs. And so that is very much her experience, and we'll hear about that. We also have Bob Smith from Sage Advisory, and he is a very big money manager, largely for retail and wealth, and he has always uses ETFs and particularly is strong with the ESG experience. So we've included him because that's one of the strongest thematics as well that we want to cover. We also have from Allianz Investment Management, we have Johan Gran, who's going to talk about how he has perceived the ETF industry working. So we've got that institutional coverage. And Nick Houghton, of course, from QS Investors. He's head of investment solutions, and they are huge quant managers, part of Legg Mason Group, and they are using ETFs as well. So there is quite a bit of institutional use of ETFs in America, but I'm really hoping we're going to just see more of it through this program.
The key to any virtual event, as you know, is great content. And when I'm looking at this agenda, I see a host of great panels. Highlight a couple of the more compelling ones for us, please.
Well, I have to say personally, we ran, I had this idea for a big debate in the European event, which was going to be a physical debate in the hall where we're going to have people against each other standing there. And in Europe, the great debate was supposed to be a hedge fund manager against an ETF manager hedge fund managers saying this industry is just going to blow up the whole financial markets, it's not safe at all, and the ETF person defending. But of course we had to recreate that digitally, and it actually came off really, really well, surprisingly well, and very, very vivid, considering at least one of our people was in Western Australia, because that's what that world was like in March and in April, May, when everyone was stuck. But this time round, our big debate is quite exciting, and I'm going to read you the motion, actually, in the big debate. This House says that non- or semi-transparent ETFs will cause the end of 40 Act mutual funds. So this is, it's a bit of a reach that they will cause the end of mutual funds, but I have found two people who are prepared to talk about that and debate it. So I can tell you those panellists are Ed Rosenberg from American Century Investments, and then I've got Terry Norman, who will be familiar to you, founder of Blue Tractor. So the pair of them will be debating whether or not these new non-transparent ETFs are going to wipe out mutual funds.
Another highlight of the program is that we know that you're going to be unveiling some award winners. The voting is now open for the 2020 US ETF Industry Awards. Tell us a little bit more about how we can register our votes.
That's really kind of you to mention that. So let me just tell you, I'm going to give you a bit of a backstory that we've run European awards for 10 years. And the last year we all flew over to New York in October and did the first US awards to see whether or not they'd be popular. And they were. It was a fantastic evening, very collegiate. And we're so happy to come back and do it again. So if you want to vote, so Bloomberg pre-selected and pre-nominated in each sector, so you don't have to do the hard bit. You just look and see who you like, who you know and who you value, and the firm with the most votes wins. So vote is my best advice.
There's always a lot to cover, Beverly. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the event or other upcoming things from ETF Express?
We certainly have, obviously, ESG covered. So we have Linda Zhang speaking, who's very well known in the ETF world with Purview Investments. And we also have Thomas Koo from a really interesting firm in San Francisco, I think, called True Value Labs, who seem to be doing some really interesting work on trying to get a standard for ESG. So that's our ESG portion done. But we also have thematics, and there we've got Dorrit Lawson, who's Change Finance. So you can imagine that they are driven to make a change across diversity or a lot of the issues that activists are concerned about at the moment. So they're doing good work in that. And we have Michael Lucas from Truemark Investments, who they also have an ESG product, but they do have a defined outcome and buffered ETF, which is really interesting and a whole new theme that has sprung up with this lack of income. You can't find income at the moment. So if you're hunting for income, ETFs are now stepping up and creating these extraordinarily clever products that can fill that space. So I'm excited to hear him speak as well.
Thanks for all the information about the upcoming ETF Live Summit. For those who are interested in participating, you can register at etfexpress.com. And for those of you in the ETF business who are looking to launch or promote your products, we're here to help. Go to gregoryfca.com to learn more.